Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. I'm Chris Garner, joined tonight with George Aldrich to give our review on the latest Mission Impossible movie, Mission Impossible Fallout. This is the sixth installment in the franchise, directed once again following Rogue Nation by Christopher McQuarrie, starring a lot of the same cast: Tom Cruise, Ving Rhames, Rebecca Ferguson, and many, many others. We've actually talked about all of the previous Mission Impossible films before. However, I don't know if we're proud of those reviews now because they're going back quite a long way.
3 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Even though in the film's canon it was 2 years, but in real
wasn't
life,
this movie pushed back like a year, or was this like genuinely when it was meant to come out? Like I'm not sure.
I think this one was fine. What was the last one? Actually, I remember now. So when Mission Impossible 5 came out, it was due out in December that year.
Yeah.
And then the little film called The Force Awakens took the December slot, so they pulled it forward 6 months, which is rare. But it was ready, and it was a big hit, and it paid off. And they've gone for the summer release again with the new one.
It makes sense it being a summer release, I think. Like, I couldn't see these being like the big December, November hit, you know what I mean?
I couldn't see this going up against, not Nanny McPhee,
Mary Poppins. Yeah. You got Tom Cruise going up against Emily Blunt.
I mean, he'd actually fly down from a real umbrella though if he did it. He does his own stunts. Did you know that?
But yeah, no, we have talked about all the previous Mission Impossible films. You can go on our previous videos. We did one video where we talked about 1 to 4 in sort of like a big general discussion video, and then Rogue Nation got its own review. However, it's one of our old ones, so you've got to sift through about an hour of like the news and like movie things and everything that we used to do. But we're going to get straight into it on this one. So as always, we'll kick off with spoiler free. And then when we get to spoilers, we'll let you guys know. Both of us saw this today, opening day. It's usually very rare. Sometimes we have a little bit of a delay on it. But this was a movie that I think both of us, it may have actually been one of our most anticipated movies of the year, in all honesty.
Yeah, easily. I mean, not just because this year's been, well, it's not been an awful year for film, but there's not many films coming out this year. We've had a very weak summer blockbuster season, and this has been the kind of, Mission Impossible is going to come out in July. It's one of those franchises, not like Bond, but it is like Bond's stories in terms of hype, that you don't really get excited. And when you approach that, when you finish the film before knowing that's what's coming up next, that's when you get excited. That's what the James Bond hype's like, and I got it with this again. We both went to the premiere in London 2 weeks ago now. Jesus, that's gone quick. We both met Tom Cruise, Henry Cavill, Rebecca Ferguson. That was a good day, Christopher McQuarrie. So check out that's on our Facebook, the pictures of us with them all. So that always naturally helps to build up if you meet the cast naturally. But this franchise, before even getting to this film, this is remarkable. I've never seen a franchise like this in the sense that Marvel aside, that doesn't really count. That's the cinematic universe. The individual franchise to one story, not 30 combining. I'm struggling to think of the last one that's got better and better and better and better as it's gone on. Even the Bond films, don't get me wrong, Bond is the best still, but they are so inconsistent, and you get different eras and different whatnot, whereas Mission Impossible is Tom Cruise's franchise, and they're just somehow getting better and better, and that helps the build up to this. And now they've added the team angle, they're adding in people like Rebecca Ferguson. It's building more and more, and it's just becoming its own. I mean, it's a big franchise anyway, but I think now it's reached a level where it can be compared to the true greats. Yeah. In terms of all franchises, this can be compared to all of them now, I think.
Yeah, and I think the Bond comparison is unavoidable at this point. Like, I know you should view them both as their own thing, but especially being sort of like, they are now the two big like foundation pillars, I would say, in like the spy genre. And in all honesty, like, yes, modern Bond has had a lot of missteps. Like, a lot of people didn't like Quantum of Solace. Skyfall did win people over, but then it was kind of shot in the foot again with Spectre. I know a lot of people didn't like that movie, whereas, as you said, Mission Impossible has gone from strength to strength. I would say definitely from Ghost Protocol, the 4th movie, that's where they found the formula and found the niche. Yeah. Not to say the previous ones were bad. I love all the Mission Impossible films equally. Like, there's always like, each one's got its own spark, but certainly from 4, that's when you could see it all gelling together. By 5, Rogue Nation, they hit their stride, and then they're absolutely continuing it with Fallout. The trailer came out for this thing, and it's a film where you kind of know what you're getting in for at this point, especially because they've nailed the formula. It's very easy to put together, I would say. And from the trailer, it looked awesome, action-packed, the set pieces, everything like that. I was immediately hyped for it, to the point where I think I've said it was my second most anticipated movie of the year. Creed 2 still at number 1 for me, because just like I absolutely love the Rocky franchise, but this was a close second. And in short, before we go into the review, it did not disappoint. I had a blast at this movie. I'm kind of following what you said after you came out. It would definitely be in my top 3. Probably still rank it just behind Infinity War, but I would have to give this another watch. It's difficult to compare the two, in all fairness. Very, very different movies, although they're both action movies, but I was not disappointed with this movie at all. It kind of hit all of my expectations, exceeded some, and is still, without a doubt, some of the best stunts I've seen in a movie, some best action pieces. It was great.
Could you imagine if Tom Cruise had been cast as Iron Man, like the original, that's who they originally wanted.
Was it? Really?
Yeah, Tom Cruise was the original, like, desired Iron Man actor. Can you imagine him up against Thanos? He'd have built his own Iron Man suit. No, this is, yeah, I'm the same. I came out a couple hours ago. I absolutely love this film. It is everything I wanted it to be and more, which I can be very easy pleased. But I think with these films, because with the Bond films, I mean, for those who haven't seen before, I'm a humongous Bond fan. I always have been. I grew up with them and naturally over time and stuff like that. And the Bond, Casino Royale was the second best Bond film. Contour the worst Bond film. I absolutely adore Skyfall, top 5. Spectre, disappointment looking back on it, but not. I mean, it's a fine film. It's just off the back of Skyfall.
Yeah,
it wasn't to be. They just tried to do too much too quickly. And with these, I think, I don't know if I messaged you or I sent to my dad about it, but I said that it gets compared to Bond, which is fine. But now it's in a position where it can't just be compared to Bond. Bond is now trading this, like, okay, like Daniel Boyle's next Bond, final Daniel Craig film. What can you do that this isn't now doing? Whereas in the past, it was Bond had set the standards for all spy thrillers, espionage, all of it. Bond is the top dog.
Well, I think it's because Bond's had, been going for years. So obviously
it's had a 50th anniversary. It's like 56. It's had like different Bonds, different eras and whatnot. But of the current state, like the last 10 years, Mission Impossible for future films. I mean, film has evolved. The thing with the Bond films is, if you rewatch them, it's not just watching these old films. It's watching the evolution of real life history with the evolution of film. It's fascinating when looking into them. I'll save all this for next year. But basically, looking at literally the last 10 years, they're now playing catch-up because film has changed. And it's taking Bond so long to adapt to changes, even in the many things like merchandising, where they were so proud of themselves being 007, we're our own little thing. They've lost a big potential audience because people watch Bond, it's an event film, but it's not current. You just see the new film come out and you go and see it. Whereas you don't have that hype over months and months and years. You can look forward to it. And I think similar to this in this way, but Bond is now starting to jump onto the merchandising. They did their Lego. They've got a Lego sponsorship deal now where they did Aston Martin DB5. They've done Pop Funkos. They've now changed distributors. So I'm sure that Bond is going to try and probably evolve to be more modern. Whereas Rogue Nation's itself, I think this goes back to Mission Impossible 3, almost a soft reboot, like what you said, 4. It found its footing. That's the formula. They're sticking with that now. And for the 6th one, this is the quickest Mission Impossible sequel, and it's still been 3 years.
Yeah,
they don't rush these. They don't take they're taking their time. They put a story in place, and then they build from the ground up, and it works. Even though Tom Cruise got injured and lost 4 months of filming, they still nailed out Mustache Gate. I think Henry Cavill made the right choice. He made the right choice, and did he shave or did he want to keep it?
Paramount and Bad Robot must be absolutely pissing themselves laughing with like what transpired with the whole Justice League thing. Like, what's more effective, like paying millions for CGI to like CGI the entire lower portion of the guy's face, or getting him to shave and replace it with like a fake mustache? Like, you could tell where his heart lay, and it definitely lay with Mission Impossible out of the 2, I think.
And it's worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Also in the franchise's history, you talked about like the time span, but also this is the first one in the franchise that's been directed by the same person from the previous film. Yeah. Christopher McQuarrie. Even now, and we'll get into obviously Fallout in a minute, we're kind of doing like a big long intro here. After watching this movie, I've only watched this movie once. Rogue Nation I've seen a bunch of times, and having seen it recently, I think I still do prefer Rogue Nation. There was just some kind of style about it. The opera scene, which we've said many, many times, is without a doubt one of the best spy set pieces, scenes of all time, how it was all put together. how the soundtrack kind of interweaved as well with Ness and Dormer. I just loved absolutely everything about Rogue Nation. And whilst this movie is fantastic, and I'm really glad that they did bring Christopher McQuarrie back doing the screenplay and direction, it didn't quite hit the heights for me of Rogue Nation, despite still being a fantastic movie. And I actually do hope that Christopher McQuarrie comes back again, because you can tell he has a good rapport with everyone. He knows what's needed for a Mission Impossible movie. The twists when they happen and the revelations when they happen still shock. There's a lot of great ones in this movie as well. And I don't want to because this is quite high praise here, and it might be a bit hyperbole. He's actually a very, very good action director. Just in terms of staging, camera angles and everything like that. I know you're going to talk a lot about the camera angles when we get to some scenes as well, perhaps borrowed from another prolific director. But no, it's just fantastic. He's got the formula down. I think why I didn't like this one more than Rogue Nation, and it's going to sound like I'm bitching about this film, and I'm really not. I think the story was perhaps a little bit weaker in this one compared to the previous one. And I guess I just like the style and aesthetic a little bit more from the previous one compared to this one.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say I think easily they're the top two. Personally, after one viewing, I will try and see it a couple more times.
Yeah,
I would put this above 5. David, granted though, the opera scene is without doubt the best Mission Impossible scene. It doesn't matter what stunts they do, the entire opera act almost is just absolutely incredible filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you said, Chris McQuarrie. What Tom Cruise does, he surrounds himself with, and not yes men. He surrounds himself with people that he trusts and he knows can get a good performance out of him, and he can get a good script out of them. And so if you look at Chris McQuarrie, he did Mission Impossible 4. He actually rewrote the final draft for Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Which Tom Cruise apparently called him in to do. And I think what Tom Cruise does, he works with these same directors now, because they've got working with him. He's got naturally good actors perform with certain directors choose certain actors. Mm-hmm. These guys have all clicked, the entire squad. Bringing back Rebecca Ferguson. Yeah, that's been said that in the Mission Impossible films, they not necessarily a Bond girl, but this is the first time we've had a lead actress. Yeah. Also, this is the most sequely of the sequels. So, when I was towards my sister who hadn't seen any of them, do I need to watch them? I said normally you don't, but this one you have to see the 5th one before, because this is the first one that follows up. You've got a recurring villain, recurring cast. You could watch 1, 2, 3, 4. Couldn't ever watch any others, you'd be fine. But 5 and 6 you have to watch together. Yeah. And I think that helps each film, where they're creating relationships within that and expanding upon it, which is the perfect way. It's the way a franchise should be done. But I think McQuarrie is nailed on as the director of this franchise now, and there's a reason that Tom Cruise is a producer as well as an actor. Mm-hmm. He's got a certain amount of creative control, not like a vile amount, but he's there sitting in the boardroom meeting saying, so what am I going to do next? And I think that helps with the directors, that they all work with one another, and that's why these films are starting to click and get better and bigger and better. Yeah. And I'd long may it continue.
And similar to Bond in another way, I promise this is going to be the last comparison I bring to Bond in this review, but certainly the last couple of Bond films, they've gone for that continuity between sequels, whereas the early Mission Impossible films and even the earlier Bond films, you could view each one as a separate entity. There was some loose little bits of continuity, I know there's a scene, it might be in on Her Majesty's Secret Service, where he looks on the table and it's got some items and gadgets he's used in the previous ones. I think there's musical cues as well. But it was all very minimal, and Mission Impossible was very much the same, where certainly 1, 2, and 3 you could view as their own thing, even kind of 4 as well. And one of my positives for this one now, and the title has many connotations, fallout meaning perhaps an explosion. And also what I liked about it, this felt probably the most personal journey for Ethan out of all the ones that have come before. In terms of how it advanced his character from the previous one, tied up a lot of loose ends with the wife character as well, who, when I watched 3 for the first time, I really disliked how they gave him a wife, because it felt like they was trying to ground it more, and it was it felt like unnecessary baggage, like it's someone for him to save at the end of the movie. And then after that point, you get a brief little epilogue at the end of 4 where it says someone's watching over, the relationship didn't work, but it felt very much throwaway, we don't want to carry on with that whole relationship thing, we just want to get back to the action. But in this one, it ties it back and it advances it in a good way, and we get a little bit more information regarding that. And also the fact that Ethan's character, Tom Cruise, he is still dealing, he is still being haunted by the events that have transpired since Rogue Nation. And I like how they continued that. I thought that was really good. It just seemed to ground the story a lot more, give it a lot more stake, and you see this sort of like anguish that it's like being taken out on Ethan as well. Also, the fact that it ties into the plot where maybe he's being set up or something like that. I'm not going to go too much in spoilers, but there's like someone out to get him and kind of turn him against his own organization. And I really liked how they did that with this sequel.
Yeah, and I think that's what it needs. I think you can do all these single individual films, but when you do start continuity, it opens up a different environment. You feel like there's more at stake, and the previous films have meant more to what story could be told here. It only enhances it, and I think that's what this does. Again, to go back to Bond, when they had Quantum of Solace set 1 minute after Casino Royale, which had no right being set a minute after Casino Royale, that's when they kind of shot themselves in the foot. Skyfall works as an individual. You don't have to watch the other films. They make the odd reference, whereas Spectre was that outright, all of the Daniel Craig films are connected in a big web because we finally got the rights to Spectre. Whereas this was very much going back to the fourth film. 2 years have passed, things have changed, but there's still people out there to get them. And I think that did make the biggest difference with that. But it's even the little things like, you got Alec Baldwin as the director of the IMF. IMF? Yes, IMF. And he's saying, I picked this job for a reason, that we need this. They don't do these, because these films have got modern now, they don't do these stupid, technology is winning everywhere. We have to fight against the technology to keep the spies. Forget all of that. Not let your brain drop. Because the thing is with these films that they're smart. They're not like in your face, we're really smart, but you can't switch your brain off for 20 minutes. You need to keep it on, keep thinking, because things do come into play from previous parts of the film. And I think that does credit, it gives it a bit more, technically it is a spy film. And there needs to be a certain amount of intelligence in a spy film, because naturally that's the job. Yeah. And seeing them connect does help, but I think with this, they've nailed what they've gone out to do. Yeah. And I think it's an important stride for, if they do, officially, they don't announce 10 sequels in advance. We don't know if there'll be Mission Impossible 7. There could be, there might not be, but what they're doing with this franchise is working wonders.
Yeah, definitely. The cast as well, you can tell they all get on and gel well. So you've got obviously like the people that have been in all of them, or most of them, coming back. You've got Tom Cruise, Tom Cruise, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Alec Baldwin, Rebecca Ferguson. I actually not going in. We're going much more into it in spoilers, but I really like what they did with her character. Like bringing her back, you could say like, oh yeah, well she was in the last one, but the way that they framed her character, and I guess this is in the trailer, the first trailer that came out, so it's not too much of a spoiler. Potential rivalry between her and Ethan going on, and I really like the different stances of each character. You could see where both characters were coming from. You could sympathize with both of them and sort of their agenda and what they wanted to accomplish, even if they were kind of butting heads in the process to get to that goal. I thought that was incredibly well written for her character. But I guess we should talk about some of the new characters a bit more as well. So I guess we'll kick off with the main one, Henry Cavill. You see him in the trailers, loading his fists. Unfortunately, with no sound effects in the movie, which kind of did take away a little bit of the impact. I really like the idea of the character, how you kind of have this rival CIA guy who's kind of watching his every move, watching the IMF's every move. And he's also kind of the muscle who's sent in to basically just demolish everything in his way to get his job done. You've got Ethan on the one hand, who's very methodical, very, forward thinking, everything like that. And then you've got this impulsive CIA agent who's just like a bulldozer storming, full guns blazing. I like the concept of the character, and I like Henry Cavill. I think he is a good actor. However, in this role, I didn't really get much personality from the villain, and I think that kind of let it down a bit. I think with a lot of personality... Go on, sorry. So you want to talk about this?
I'm going to type it. Basically, so with Henry Cavill as the character, with the rival CIA stuff, it reminded me of like R2 and C3, but you got Tom Cruise, the little small one. And basically, I think their chemistry works because they're the polar opposites of each other. And by having them together with their chemistry, it works. Sorry, we've got a little chat going because there may or may not have been a...
I thought I may have potentially dropped a huge spoiler there, but in all fairness, I think it's fair to see it from the trailer. At least I thought it was. Maybe I might be wrong.
But anyway, Henry Cavill. Okay. Carry on your opinion. I'll give mine.
Yes, I didn't think he had that much personality, really. I think if you had... I don't know how we could have played it differently, though, because I kind of feel bad if you, recast and don't use Henry Cavill. but I just didn't get enough from his person. Like, if you look at some of the other villains that have come, other characters that have come before, God, it's from the trailer. Come on, guys, you know this. Come on. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman, great. Dougray Scott, people that have come before, even John Voight from the first movie. They had some quality to them. There was something memorable about them. And in this, like, maybe that's just the character. He's kind of just like a henchman character, but that's all he kind of was to me. There wasn't that spark. Even some, I'm going to go back to Bond one more time. Most of the henchmen in Bond, like Jaws or whoever it happens to be, Odd Job, there's that memorable quality to them. And I didn't really get that from Henry Cavill's character with this movie.
See, with me, I very much enjoyed him. I think casting him as the opposite of Tom Cruise worked. He's Superman. He is massive. He is shredded. Girls like him. He is that, whereas Tom Cruise, like you said, smaller, more methodical. Two very different people. So putting on the mission together is naturally going to have some funny moments, but it's just a dynamic that Tom Cruise hasn't worked with in the terms of the character of Ethan Hunt. So I think that added dynamic. I think with Henry Cavill, the issue is, and I don't know if this technically classifies as racism, he seems very American, like, oh, I've got like a Southern American accent, and I'm an American. I'm big. I'm tough. I'm American. I don't have much of a personality and stuff. And I think because he was that Southern American type, it restricted him massively. Not that the character was written to have these big moments, but by choosing the character to be of that type of, not character of that, maybe this sounds really racist. Basically, I think that if Henry Cavill had been allowed to be English, granted it's too easy to have another English villain in these films.
Sort of like his role in Man from U.N.C.L.E., because he was like the British spy in that, wasn't he?
It feels like what they've told. It feels restricted having to do the accent, because it's not like an accent making it range of emotion. It's just very bog standard, like he's the American hero type thing. He's got that American mustache and all that stuff, and he's the tough guy that's going to make them jokes that aren't really funny, but they are down south. It felt like that, and
can we define an American mustache? Is it like the Burt Reynolds mustache kind of thing you're talking about, like the Ornstache?
I think he was trying to like combine that with the modern day stubble that everyone seems to have.
Yeah.
And like he's basically the kind of guy that you wouldn't want to get in a fist fight with, because he literally reloads his fists. Which has become a running sort of meme online, which is quality, because he did it at the premiere. People just keep asking him to reload his fists. I think Henry Cavill was restricted. It's not his fault. I don't think it's Chris McQuarrie's fault either. I just think it's a character that I really enjoyed. I think it worked out dynamic, but it was very predictable, the character arc. Although there was a great Harvey Dent reference at the end.
Yes.
I'm going to say that, and we'll talk more spoilers. But Henry Cavill is someone I was looking forward to in this film, and I did enjoy him in this film. I don't think there's a single character I would have removed. Angela Bassey as head of CIA didn't really need to do anything, but she had to be there, so there was that sort of higher ranking person.
It was the rivalry between her and Alec Baldwin, really, wasn't it? Just sort of...
Yeah, CIA versus IMF. One's real, one's not. That sort of thing. And it did work. And, she was, Tom Cruise is Alec Baldwin's number 2 and Henry Cavill's her number 2. So it just further enhanced their rivalry with each other. Although, to be fair to them, speaking Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill, the trailers make out Henry Cavill is the big dastardly villain from the get-go, with the bathroom scene and stuff. They actually team up for most of the film. And they're a very good relationship together. I think they had great chemistry, and I think that probably helped the performances with each other when they're sort of fighting or, talking. It feels very natural, like the rest of the team does.
Yeah.
So I think Henry Cavill perfectly fitted this Mission Impossible franchise.
Yeah, it's whenever you introduce someone new into the mix, it's like, oh, they're going to make or break it. And thankfully, it definitely worked for this movie. Another new cast member who I really don't have a lot to say about, really. Vanessa Kirby playing a character called the White Widow. From the trailers and when we were at the premiere and stuff and they were talking about her character, I definitely thought she would have a lot more to do in the plot of the film. And I would say definitely for the first act of the film, she's quite prevalent. But after that, like it almost seems like they forget about her character throughout the rest of the movie. That being said, I don't really know whereabouts she could have been placed throughout the rest of the movie. She's very much a background character. She wasn't an awful character. She was a nice mix, and I'm really glad they didn't do a whole kind of love triangle thing between her and Rebecca Ferguson. There's moments where it almost feels like they're going to touch on that, but thankfully they skirt around that. but yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about her character, really. She was kind of cool, and she got like a couple of action scenes, but nothing much to talk about, really.
Yeah, I don't watch The Crown, so I can't consider anything, but it felt like the very stereotypical I'm very posh, I'm British, and I'm actually an evil person on the inside. It felt like that tradition, and she didn't really add much to the film. She was there to do her role as basically the other female character. Luckily, it wasn't a love interest or anything, but she was one of the weak ones, and it was very confusing that she had a brother who was European and she was like outright like that posh English, and you didn't really believe it, and that kind of let down that side angle. You didn't, with some films you get a brother sister that are like villains or henchmen or whatnot, and it's understandable, but you just didn't see anything. They're just calling each other that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that was her. That's one of those. I think one thing worth mentioning: Jeremy Renner isn't in this film.
Yes. Yeah. No explanation for his character from what I caught. I didn't get any reference at all. Maybe he died on a previous mission in between movies. Maybe he's just on vacation. But yeah.
Maybe someone clicked their fingers. Basically, for those that don't know, they were filming Infinity War Part 2 when they filmed this film, so he couldn't be in it. In all honesty, I do like him in these films. However,
you don't really miss him.
It's not that I don't miss him. The film doesn't miss him either.
I think Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg are absolutely the two that you need.
Yes, and I think Ving Rhames was a bit, especially the fourth film, he's very much sidelined.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeremy Renner works perfectly for the fourth film, that number 2 that gets to know them. He worked for that. He didn't really have much to do in the fifth one. And it felt like the same in this. If he was here, there wouldn't have been too much for him to do. And I think Ving Rhames takes the role of two people much better. But I mean, I would like to see him in the next one. They need. Oh, I missed him then. But
it's just think about Jeremy Renner's character as well. Certainly in Ghost Protocol, as you said, in Rogue Nation, he wasn't really all in it that much. But Ghost Protocol, he was almost like another Ethan Hunt, like not quite as good, but he was doing like similar kind of stuff. At least with Simon Pegg, like Simon Pegg's the comic relief. He's always on the computer. Ving Rhames is sort of like the tech guy, bomb disposal, all that kind of stuff. With Jeremy Renner, his role was quite difficult.
A bit of each.
Pinpoint. Yeah, it was difficult to pinpoint. And then with this movie as well.
Like Hawkeye.
I feel really bad for him as well, like because he got his own Bourne movie as well, didn't he? And they kind of dropped him after that one as well. The guy doesn't really have much luck with his roles. But in this movie, you kind of had Henry Cavill alongside Ethan anyway, and he kind of served the role that maybe a Jeremy Renner would have served as well, if you know what I mean. So I can see them cutting him out of the movie. I guess it was good timing, really, with the filming of Infinity War. They'll probably bring him back for the next one, I don't doubt, because that happens with a lot of the cast in these films, where if they don't feature in one movie, they'll probably feature again at a later sequel or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back, and they'll probably want to bring him back too.
I just have two things to mention that I was also very disappointed about with this movie before moving on to all of the positives. Well, actually, three things I guess I didn't care for. The first one, no Imagine Dragons friction in the entire movie. I was almost ready to give this movie 0 stars because of that. It was basically the song that featured in the first trailer, official trailer 1 for the movie, and I was under the impression it was written specifically for Mission Impossible, because the guitar sound in it felt almost too perfect and too coincidental to not actually be featured in the movie in the end credits or throughout the movie somewhere. And I was holding out throughout the entire movie, and it hit the credits, and it was just orchestral, and we didn't get it, and I was really, really gutted. So that was one. Also, there's a shot from the first trailer as well that doesn't feature in the movie anywhere, and it was one of those. It was actually the ending shot of the trailer before it cuts to black, and you get the title come up, and it was one of those shots where you're absolutely begging to see what happens. It was a shot where Tom Cruise is driving a truck, and there's like this big semi-lorry like coming down the road, and it kind of swerves, and he's almost about to hit it, and then it cuts to black. That wasn't in the movie. He's driving down like a country lane or something. I might be wrong, but as far as I could see, and I watched the entire movie, I did not see that scene in the entire film. I don't know if you clocked that at all. Or
I'm going to go back later on and rewatch the trailer.
It's literally the final shot of official trailer 1 before the title comes up. And the last thing I want to talk about as well, we could talk about camera angles and stuff afterwards, but the music by Lorne Balfe. Now, I forgot, is it Joe Kramer who did the music to the... Yeah, Joe Kramer did the music to Rogue Nation. Absolutely adore that soundtrack. As I mentioned earlier, the way he worked in Nessun Dorma into what was kind of Ilsa's theme, the romance theme. Sadly, that didn't feature in this one. I guess you could kind of chalk it up to the fact that, you know, that was tying into the opera scene, and we didn't get that in this one, but I did kind of see that as her unofficial theme. I was very let down by the soundtrack to this movie, Lorne Balfe. Yes, you get the Mission Impossible theme in there. Of course you do. That's been in all of them. But I'm sick of like this modern movie trend of all of these Hans Zimmer clone soundtracks. I was watching this entire movie and I was like picking up cues going, that sounds exactly like Dark Knight Rises. That sounds exactly like Inception. That sounds exactly like Dunkirk. To the point where I thought, as Hans Zimmer returned to score these movies, because he did the score for Mission Impossible 2, which was great. Kind of sounded more like Gladiator, that one, though, because he like brought in Lisa Gerrard and you had like a lot of acoustic guitar. This was just your generic Zimmer, strings, brass. You know exactly what I'm talking, percussion, all of that stuff. And it hit the credits and it was Lorne Balfe. So I Googled him and apparently he has some, like, he shares a studio or something with Hans Zimmer.
It's one of his proteges.
He's one of them. He's collaborated with him on a bunch of projects. It just didn't do anything for me. Not to say like it's an awful score. It's just very, very generic in terms of like modern movies. We get these soundtracks now are a dime a dozen. The Inception bombs, the percussion, as I said. So I was a little bit let down by it. It didn't kind of have that sweeping, memorable orchestral thing. It fit the film. It was more like a musical landscape kind of thing for the movie, rather than like memorable cues and memorable themes, other than the Mission Impossible theme.
Yeah, I mean, you messaged me earlier, so I think after you watched the film, because it was just before I did, you said, you know, I couldn't tell Zimmer scoring it, and I went in listening for the Hans Zimmer scoring. It felt like, I think I said to you before hit record, it felt a lot more like James Newton Howard, the emotional beats. Mm-hmm. Issue this film, there are some very similar story beats to the Dark Knight. Yes, yeah. We'll get into that in spoilers. There's one scene in particular, but it's very hard when it's the emotion stuff to see the comparisons and how, you know, the music is. It doesn't feel like a Mission Impossible soundtrack, which is good but bad. But you get the classic theme, which comes in twice, but it's trying to be more of a soundtrack more than just noise. And I didn't notice the percussions and stuff as much. I thought what I was listening matched on what's happening on screen, but there was nothing memorable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think what else. Couple of like weird editing choice in this film, mostly down to the fact that there's like a lot more dream sequences in this movie that I think any other Mission Impossible film. I don't know if we've had any other dream sequences in other Mission Impossible films. They were kind of strange to me. There was one scene in particular, which I can't say exactly what it involves, but it was absolutely beautiful. It felt very artistic. You're kind of seeing like a squad of vehicles sort of mobilizing to complete a task, and it's just soundtrack behind it. And there's very low audio, great camera angles, and it feels like it's building tension. And it's kind of revealed that it's a dream sequence, and it felt kind of pointless. I guess it was sort of like showing what would happen if the event played out. I didn't really think that was needed. That's just a very, very nitpicky thing for me. Do you have anything else we can say? Do you want to talk about the action and camera and everything? I
wanted to say back to music. A lot of the action scenes, and the more importantly, they chose not to use any soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which definitely worked. It when films do that, it automatically gives it more tension.
Yeah.
Most notably, Infinity War, the last 2 minutes.
Yeah. Moments where the music's playing and then it will just suddenly cut out when something will happen.
And it ups your concentration because you think you got to listen as well as you got to watch. That benefits cameras. Nothing visually striking, but it was in the trailer. There's a shot with water. For anyone that watched Dunkirk last year, anyone that's in the challenge, you know I'm a massive fan. That's one of my favourite films. They did something which no one's really done before. I'm sure someone's done in the past, but not to the on a blockbuster where when you've got the usual water filling up an area, they always just have, you know, the camera going, the camera level with the water or something. Whereas obviously last year in Dunkirk, when they tipped the boat, they actually just put a camera on the boat, tipped it so it looked like the water was creeping in, which was far more terrifying and more powerful.
Yeah.
They did it in this for a scene involving a truck in water, which worked great. And I think not that it's going to become a trend, but it's really cool to see people trying different things rather than going for the same things. I think this franchise, stunts aside, is trying new things as much as it can. And it made for a very I mean, I'm okay in water, but I get. Imagine if you had like people scared of drowning or they can't swim, they're seeing camera angles like that and stuff. They'd be mortified.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think of anything else I can say about this before. I think we should probably move on to spoilers. In all fairness, so I'll give my overall impressions of this movie. This movie, in terms of the spy genre and everything like that, there are still some tropes in there that you've seen in countless other movies, not just the spy genre, but the countdown where it stops at 1 and things like that. It's just like very, very tried and tested, like spy things that you see throughout movies. If you've seen other Mission Impossible films, all the other Mission Impossible films have done that too. But what it does, it feels like it's pushing the boundaries sort of in terms of stunts and action set pieces. It's advancing the characters in a good way. It's nice to see some continuity between this and some of the other ones. We had a question earlier saying, do you have to see the previous Mission Impossible films before seeing this one? And you kind of hit on it. I would say definitely try and do a double feature of Rogue Nation and this if you can. I'd say out of the two, like you, ideally try and watch 4, 5, and 6, or even I guess you've got to go back to 3 with this one with the wife anyway, haven't you? Really? So 3 onwards, I'd definitely say. But I mean, I watched this with someone who hadn't seen the previous 5 for years and years since they last came out. They couldn't really remember the first 4. And they were fine following this. I think you get enough context with this movie to have it as its own thing. But if you've seen the other ones, you'll appreciate a lot more of the character aspects. Great stunts, great music in terms of the main theme. I just ragged on the music. I don't know. I just said that. And it's just great to see that continuity with the direction. Fantastic direction. And like bring on Mission Impossible 7 in 3 years' time. I'm already hyped. And it's very rare that a franchise where you think they've done everything, they'll come out with a sequel. 6 sequels in now and still surprise you and still have that impact.
Yeah, this isn't just, you know, a bog standard spy film action. This is without doubt one of the all-time greats. This will be put in the same brackets as actually very different. That's more sci-fi. In terms of recent action, you know, if you want to go spy, you can compare this to your Casino Royale, your Goldfingers.
There's John Wick. There's a nightclub scene in this movie, which very much reminded me of John Wick. A bathroom fight scene as well, which almost reminded me of The Raid.
I felt that with the Mission Impossible, this can be compared to, this is more than a spy film now, this series. And I think this film itself has a right to be compared as a great. And I think this is a film people will end up seeing. I think this will do well at the box office. This will do well on home release. And I think this franchise is gathering more and more steam that this is the peak. I said it last time. I don't know how this is better than the last one, but they've done it. And I'm bored of saying it because they are going to keep doing it at this rate. You know, Tom Cruise, he's not looking 56. He's looking 26. And he athletically, yes, he broke his ankle on this filming. Okay, accidents happen. He looks like he could do this for another 10, 15 years if he needed to. This is a great film. I would thoroughly recommend to see it at cinema. I didn't see it at IMAX, but I bet it would have been even great there, especially for the stunts. When they're doing the big stunts, they like using the wide angle. Using the wide angle lens, which, you know, you can tell it's a stunt. You can tell it's not. There are some noticeable CGI things, mainly the helicopters. But when it's the stunts, you can tell it's genuine, and that just it feels as if you care more because they're making the efforts to go out and do these stunts. And it's not just Tom Cruise; it's almost all of them. The motorbike chases, everything. There's so many of these options where they could just choose to do easy CGI, but they don't want to. They want to do it properly.
It's important for these kind of movies, I think, definitely for this kind of genre.
And, you know, okay, it could save a couple of grand by having a CGI bus flip, but you know what? It's far more impressive to do it, and you get more credit and respect for that. And I think this is what people, and this is going all the way back to Nolan in The Way of the Dark Knight, that he wants to if it can be done, it should be done. And if we physically can't do it, then we physically won't do it, and then we'll CGI it. And I think there's a slow trend of films going back towards this. The Mission Impossible is certainly doing that for the stunt angle of things. And this film is right up there with some of the best action films I've seen. And this will go down as a classic. This is, to me, the best of the series so far. They're getting better. I mean, it's not like easy. It's not like there's been 5 poor films, 1 good one. This is a franchise that isn't even consistent because they're getting better and better and better. They're not leveling out. They're just going up, up, up. And I think, looking back at this, I cannot wait to go see it again, and I really encourage everyone to watch it. It is certainly worth watching.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to this one as well. So that'll do it for our spoiler-free section. I I may have actually let a few spoilers out actually in my spoiler free. I very much apologize for that. Take that with a grain of salt. Just like move on. But we are definitely going to go like straight into spoilers now and pretty much cover the entire film. So if you haven't seen this movie and you are like mildly curious, please go and see the movie, because it's going to mar your enjoyment if you continue to watch the rest of this review. So go watch the movie, come back. If you've already seen the movie, great, stick around, because we're going to go into the meat of the story now. And I have no idea where to start, because a lot of stuff happens in this movie story-wise. Was there a particular area that you wanted to hit on first?
So Henry Cavill becomes the first man to play both Superman and Harvey Two-Face Dent. No, I think let's go with him. The big twist is that Henry Cavill's the villain. In the trailers, you think he's the outright villain, and in the first hour of the film, you generally think, okay, he's not the villain, he's actually the good guy, and then you know. And then it becomes too obvious that you know. It worked. I don't know why, but he was a kind of a glorified henchman. When they released the villain from the fifth film and brought him back, you knew there was a bigger plan at stake. But I kept thinking, is Cavill going to, kill him and take his spot? Is he going to be that bigger guy? But Henry Cavill, I don't know. I think he just worked what this film was trying to be, especially with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Their chemistry together, whether they're being friends or whether they're fighting. I think he's what this franchise needed, that in these films, okay, maybe by the first one, you either have the big betrayal of the teammate, or you have a villain from the get-go. Mm-hmm. And this was the first one where it felt a bit different, where it felt that middle ground between the two. That you didn't trust him from the get-go. It wasn't just a plot twist. And I think that helps this film progress. And when you do bring back, I always forget his actual name, the villain from the fifth film.
Oh, Solomon Lane.
Solomon Lane, yes. It's such a...
If you've got Solomon Lane as a name, like, you just know you're going to be like a worldwide terrorist or something.
Yeah, and when they bring back
one Solomon Lane watching this video right now, who's going to be like the nicest guy ever.
and he was a great character in the fifth one. He was the first real good villain that this franchise had, and bringing him back, you don't know what their plan is with him, and then when you get to the end of it, you're like, okay, like this guy is still like the genius. He is he's done more than Blofeld in 2 films, and Blofeld's done in like 50 years. He works great, and I want to see more.
Yeah, it is kind of that with Solomon Lane. It is kind of that trope again, which again I guess was kind of sparked by The Dark Knight. Maybe he wanted to be captured. It was all part of his plan all along. That
trend's kind of dipped down the last year or two.
Yes, so remember we had Dark Knight, we had Avengers. They were the big 2, I remember, and then
Skyfall.
Skyfall. Spectre did it as well. I think
not as obvious. It wasn't. I think the painfully obvious ones was Skyfall, Avengers. Did Amazing Spider-Man do it? It was like there was like a year or two. Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yep, there you go. That was the other one.
It became a disgustingly obvious trend that would happen inside the film. Whereas in this, at least it was from the last film where he got captured at the end.
Yeah.
Now it's played a part into this. It felt like writing was a problem. Oh, we'll just pretend he wants to be captured the entire time.
And here's the thing, like, going back to Henry Cavill, sorry, the reason I kind of let the cat out of the bag in spoiler free was because I thought it was clear from trailer 1 that he was the bad guy. Especially like when you see the shot of them in the helicopters together and they're both trading shots. I was like, oh, okay, so this is the bad guy. And I think they kind of referenced that as well in some of like the interviews, maybe not outright saying it, but definitely like signaling that rivalry between the two. Do you think that the revelation of him being the villain, if it even is a revelation, do you think that would have been better if they'd have removed that scene where he goes to the CIA woman, hands her the file and tries to frame Ethan? Had they have taken that scene out, do you think the ultimate betrayal would have been more of a shock?
No, I think it would have been the exact same. I think the scene worked with the blackmail because it made you question, is Angela Bassey the actual villain, because she shuts down a meeting and stuff. It's that scene where there's like 3 twists in 3 minutes, and your mind's just blowing up all at once. And next thing, Alec Baldwin's dead.
That gutted me, like all the way through, because you never know with these movies. Like
if he's just going to pull a mask off and someone else died.
Exactly.
That's Scooby-Doo.
Maybe it was like Jeremy Renner all along, and he gave his like life as like to sacrifice himself for Alec Baldwin. But no, as far as we know, like Alec Baldwin's out of these movies now. It's a real shame because like he just became head of IMF at the end of 5, and I couldn't wait to see him do more of this. He would be like he'd be like M, wouldn't he?
And
the
I
Bond
think
equivalent.
Baldwin's on the form of his life. For anyone that's watched SNL over the last like 2 years, he's been nominated for an Emmy for his performance as Donald Trump. The only good thing about him not being in these films is that it is impossible for me, because I like my comedies. Whenever I hear him talk now, I'm expecting him to do like his Donald Trump face after every sentence, where he like pouts and closes his mouth and spins his head around. And because he has become that, every time he spoke in this film, I was expecting that performance to come into it. And I know that sounds bad, but he's so good at doing it, because you forget how big a guy he is. Like that build and stuff, that he worked perfectly for this. And at least he's referenced after he does, like, oh, I understand why he trusted you. And like, well, he's dead now because of you, Angela Bassi.
And I guess that means now with Mission Impossible 7, we're going to get a new head of IMF. So it's going to be interesting to see who they cast as the next one. But to me, like, you had it with Alec Baldwin. Like, I guess that someone probably had to die. Part of me thought that Ilsa might sacrifice herself at the end. There was a moment where she could have died. But I was like, did it have to be Alec Baldwin? Like, you could have taken out anyone.
For the scene they did, it made sense for Baldwin to go, because his had the most impact in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't have had as much a part to play in the final 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think Baldwin was unfortunately the perfect sacrifice.
Yeah.
And he will forever be remembered.
What I will say about this movie, though, as well, sort of like away from that, like they kill off Alec Baldwin, like fair enough, you're killing off a character, like a main character in this franchise. There were moments in this film where I thought they were going to go with like an incredibly ballsy move.
Death?
Like, no, just like sort of event, like mass death. Like, going with that. The very beginning of the film and the ending of the movie. And what I will congratulate this movie with, and actually pretty much all the Mission Impossible films, is Tom Cruise is going to make it out at the end of the movie. He's going to survive to fight another day with the next film. But every situation, like, there is genuine tension there. There are moments where, like, you're watching it thinking, like, nah, this is it. Like, he's gone. Like, how is he going to get out of this one? And, of course, he gets out of it, but you're still wrapped. And it's so difficult. With most action films now, the kind of action they go for, and it's mostly like the CGI-filled ones, there's always that disconnect because they feel like superheroes. And don't get me wrong, there's towards the end of this film with the helicopter scene, it does get
too much,
very ridiculous when like the helicopters are like crashing into each other over the cliff and like dangling on. But by that point, you're at the end of the movie, you've kind of already been wrapped up with a story that you're still kind of in it. But most action films go way over the top with stuff that there's that disconnect with the characters are in peril, and you know they're going to make it out of it, and there's no connection there. But with this movie, to me at least, there's always that tension in every action scene, in every single situation. And I think that's very, very difficult to achieve, but they've managed to pull it off now, 6 movies in.
And I think what helps in the current trend of a 10-picture contract, there is no formal Mission Impossible 7 announced 2 years before the 6th one comes out. You get to him like, is this really the end of this film or franchise even? And that ups the stakes automatically. It's like the Avengers syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Not Infinity War. Let's go all the way back to... is there any ones where someone could have died? Basically,
Ultron, maybe. Did they confirm anything after that?
What was the one where they had the entire slate of films out before?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think.
It was Age of Ultron, because you knew Civil War was coming out next year. So you spend the time in Age of Ultron thinking, right, what's going to be the event that starts Civil War? And it's because you're looking at the future, you're forgetting the present. Whereas this film, currently, all guns are blazing on the present. Probably goes down to the script writing process. They want to get one film out of the way. It's like almost the Nolan effect. Nolan, what you say about his Batman films, I didn't make them intentionally knowing I'd get sequels. He always said that, for anyone that remembers in Batman Begins, Rachel has got a relationship with a guy that works the law that gets killed when he discovers the bomb thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was originally going to be Harvey Dent, and they chose not to do it because he didn't want to build up this potential character and not knowing if he could do a second film or to focus on getting that one out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that that's been taken into account in Mission Impossible, that they just want to get this film out of the way, then they'll do the next one.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be setting... Because I didn't even know that Solomon Lane was coming back until the trailer. I was like, oh, they're actually bringing him back to continuity. And that works for this. And I think that gave it a lot more stakes, especially at the end, when you think a nuke might have gone off. They do the whole fade to white, like the click of the fingers. And then it's the orange sky, the mushroom cloud, and then you realize it's all okay. You knew it would be okay, but it keeps you thinking for at least a couple of seconds. And
no, there was that moment where it like faded back in with the mushroom cloud. I literally audibly went like, "Oh shit!" Like I thought they've done it. They've gone with like an Infinity War kind of ending where they're going to end it on a real downer. Like this is the first mission they've lost in the franchise, but then it pans back, and of course he like managed to do it last second. But yeah, but it works again, and I kind of let that slip almost. Well, I pretty much did, didn't I? In the spoiler-free section, where I said like the countdown ends at 1. But yeah, no, there's always that like fraction of a second where you think like, oh, maybe they haven't done it this time. I'm trying to think of anything else we could talk about. Do we need to talk about the wife or anything, or wrapping that up?
It was a cool cameo that it basically created a bit of emotional, not response, but it was more of the. They brought his wife back, and they have a great. Ving Rhames has one very good scene performance-wise, where he's talking to,
Ilsa.
Yeah, Ilsa / Rebecca Ferguson, and that's one of the most powerful scenes of this film. And he's talking about Tom Cruise's wife, and they keep doing dream sequences of his wife dying, and Solomon Lane being the man marrying them, which was really funny and creepy. Yeah, but it worked somehow. And when you just get, it's a very random, she's just there at the end. They make a reference to, oh yeah, we're going to kill her if you do anything wrong. Then you realize the entire time they've planted her where the nukes are. Now that's just villainous. And that's the right kind of villain there. He's just unstable, and that's the man with a plan. He's planned this for years. And I thought I absolutely loved it. And it just, not necessarily added tension, but it just added more to the character of Ethan Hunt. And
I think they've kind of put that wife thing.
Oh, it's a sleep now. She's married to Wes Bentley. I know what you were thinking. Wes Bentley, we haven't seen him since he died in Interstellar in that really random scene. Yes. And then there's the Hunger Games from 2012, and then there's Ghost Rider. Can you tell me anything else he's been in that's not also American Beauty? He's one of those guys that you just see him, it's like, oh, it's Wes Bentley.
Oh, God, it was him in American Beauty. Right, I know who you're on about now. Yeah. Like he was just there to be that sort of like douchey,
awkward husband.
Yeah, awkward husband, and just like get him off screen, and like the real lovers get together. I think they've put that story to bed now, but I do think it was necessary. As I said, it kind of fell up in the air, kind of like cast aside, and especially because 3, essentially the entire plot was like getting to her. When it got to 4, and it was just like, oh yeah, it didn't work out. It just seemed very throwaway, and we get that little bit at the end, which kind of did wrap it up. But this has kind of cemented it now. I think that entire storyline's done. We can move on from that now, and I'm sure they will. There's still a few other little things. There's like a few other characters that haven't come back since previous ones that I would like to see come back at some point, and maybe they can. I mean, the sky's the limit with these movies. I am trying to think of anything else. I think we've touched on all the main stuff, in all fairness. We don't really need to talk about... You've talked about the Harvey Dent stuff?
Yes, so Chris's comparison to that aspect, obviously he turns into Harvey Dent with one swan eye, not Christian Bale, Henry Cavill. I kept laughing because Chris messaged me earlier in the day and said this is so much like Dark Knight the music, and then there's the scene when he's in the helicopter where the fuel was leaking in his face, and it just reminded me of the Dark Knight when you've got Harvey lying on the ground like spitting and making noises and stuff, and I was literally like, oh my God, it literally is the Dark Knight. And then he gets up 10 minutes later and his face is just wrecked.
Yeah.
And I just sat there. I was just expecting like Rachel to scream Harvey and blow up or something. Like it was so funny. And
it was kind of like the Phantom of the Opera thing though, wasn't it? Like this part, like I really wanted to like, I wanted it to be like the perfect symmetry where like one side of his moustache is gone, but he's still got the other one on the other side. Like that would have been amazing if they did that.
It was like the blob on the left, like that really weird sort of. I mean, it's the typical henchman that what separates them from the rest is their unique thing, and it's that he literally turns into Harvey Dent in 10 minutes before he dies.
Yeah,
what a way to go! He gets smacked in the head, has a hook go into his skull, and he gets pulled into an explosion by a dangling helicopter off a cliff.
And what's brilliant is like the camera's like up high and you can see the helicopter exploding. You just see him splat off a rock and there's like a blood smear.
And like people kept like laughing, and they do this in the film in the helicopter stunt with Tom Cruise. When he chucks people out of the helicopter, it always cuts to Henry Cavill, who just isn't noticing anything behind him. And you just see this one pilot just fly off into a bush about 100 foot underneath. It's quality.
I will say though the entire ending was fantastic, like, and it's really good actually how they do balance between like the helicopter chase and the other drama. The very final Bond reference, I knew I was kind of shooting myself in the foot when I said it would be the last one, but with Spectre, how they did try and like tie Moneypenny and M into a plot line, and it was just really completely pointless. The side story, because you like the characters, because there's actual like stakes and it ties into the overall story. Solomon Lane, Ilsa's character, Ving Rhames, and Simon Pegg, they all have something to do, and it all ties into the ultimate end goal, so that when it does cut between the two, you're not kind of rolling your eyes going like, I'm wasting my time with this. Everything's like perfectly constructed, perfectly placed. The end countdown of the final bomb is 15 minutes, and I'm going to have to do some kind of time check when I get the Blu-ray for this thing, but I swear to God this thing went on for about a half hour or more. It definitely felt like it was over 15 minutes, and I was conscious of that. But it doesn't mar your enjoyment because you're still wrapped up in it, as I said. And it's kind of, even Spielberg does this. If you go to like Temple of Doom, remember that like fight on the conveyor belt? And like they're like inches away from the roller, and then it will cut, and then they're further away and further away. I'm used to that kind of stuff with my action films now, so it was fine, but it was just kind of a funny thing to notice. Another thing as well that I did like is when they go to Paris and they have that whole chase around the Arc de Triomphe, and they're driving around that. I have been to the Arc de Triomphe. I have seen what the traffic is like around the base of the Arc de Triomphe, and I did get a laugh out of that because it is kind of an every man for himself, and that's how the traffic is like. So I did get a laugh out of that as well.
I think these films, I noticed it more in 4 because you had Brad Bird who'd been animated. You look at the 4 film, there's a lot of humor in there that's very much animated humor.
Yeah.
So there's one of Simon Pegg, nose upon the big screen and stuff. And I think, it's just normal comedy. It's not normal comedy. It's very Pixar-y. It's very Disney. There's one where Tom Cruise this is the 4th film for anyone, and Tom Cruise is trying to escape a hospital. He's on the ledge. He's really high up. And you get the Russian guy that just sits on the window, just lights a cigarette, and he just does that whole Curtis nod down thing and just smiles like a sort of Pixar short film. And this film felt more like that. When it tries to do humor, it doesn't do too much of it at all, but it has these almost the Roger Moore James Bond humor. And we're not talking the end of the Roger Moore era. We're talking like peak Roger Moore, the filthy one-liners and just the charm. And there's one in this where there's a massive chase around London. They're all coming for Tom Cruise, and he runs into a church. And the way the camera cuts is you see one aisle, and you see everyone wearing black, and you think, I know what this is. And you see a bunch of people. Basically, Tom Cruise is cornered in a church next to it in someone's funeral. And then he just... It's funny because of the type of humor, and he just says to someone, I'm so sorry, and then he just runs out the door.
And you just see like this flock of people just like chasing after him as well, like run past it. It's brilliant.
It's that humor where it's not forced, it's natural, but it's charming as well. And I think this film felt more like the 4 film in doing that. Yeah. And it adds so, like I said, when like with the villain, when he just, Henry Cavill sat there watching on his plane, the camera, so you can see that other helicopter pilot fall like 100 foot. It's not meant to be funny, but it is. And that's why the humor in this film works. There are quite a few funny one-liners.
But it's not like totally inconsistent or anything. It's not like 1 minute like they're doing like a pie in the face gag and then something really serious.
It's the character. So even Henry Cavill, there's a scene in a bathroom where Tom Cruise is trying to, he wants to put a syringe in someone, make them go to sleep. Henry Cavill just gets a laptop and just smacks him around the face. And then there's like, and then they have to put the body in the toilet. So they lock the door, and then it cuts to a bunch of French people coming into the room, and they see like 3 male bodies like over a toilet locked in together. And it's that kind of humor where in the situation it's a situational humor, and that's why it works. It's not forced or over dramatic like what some action films do, like Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
they tried to be Avengers 1. The humor worked for me perfectly because it came out of their natural character development. Age of Ultron completely failed because they forgot character development, tried to make them funny. Whereas like Ragnarok, it works for the characters and what they did to reboot Thor, the soft reboot Thor, basically. Yeah. Whereas it felt like the Thor from the Brad Bird one again, where there's these little one-liners that they just build up. It just makes it more exciting as it goes on.
Yeah. Really quickly, you mentioned Roger Moore. How old was Roger Moore when he did his last James Bond movie?
I was thinking this earlier on.
There's A View to a Kill was his last one, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, and I believe A View to a Kill came out in 1985. If you bear with me. So Roger Moore was 58 when A View to a Kill came out, and
So
Tom
Has got
Cruise is
2 years.
56.
Yeah.
That is incredible. I've never known. I don't think there'll be many A-listers like Tom Cruise when they're 56.
Because even with Roger Moore, like by the time he did like his last two, like you could tell like he's probably too old. Wasn't there a line or something that I don't know if he said or someone said where when he's going for Bond girls that are like old enough to be his daughter, was it, or something like that, or granddaughter? I can't.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Roger Moore was older than the Bond girl's mother.
That was it. Yes.
In A View to a Kill.
Yeah. But I mean, like Tom Cruise has got 2 years, so by the time the next one comes out, he'll be pushing 60.
I mean, put it this way, Tom Cruise, when Robert De Niro was 57, he did Meet the Parents. And now I love that film. That's a great film. But compared to when he was doing Godfather in his early days and them sort of things, and then suddenly the more modern De Niro, it's the things that it's just more credit to Tom Cruise. The man's an absolute machine.
I was going to say there will come a point where he won't be able to do these films. He won't be able to do these kind of action roles. But I think he loves doing them, and I think he's the kind of like temperament, personality where he loves making them. And while he can, he's going to get as many done as he can.
And I don't think he's got an ego doing it. Of course, there's an ego somewhere, like everyone has one. But it doesn't strike you as a. I'm trying to think. I mean, Harrison Ford doesn't have an ego. Robert Downey Jr., we all love him, but he knows exactly what he's signing up for, and Robert Downey Jr. is Robert Downey Jr. It's for him. Whereas you can tell Tom Cruise, he really wants to do what he's going to do in his next film. He's not doing it for the sake of doing it. That's what I feel when I get to these films, and it adds to the occasion.
Yeah, and I think there will come a point where he'll go like, this is my last one, and it'll almost feel like Logan. It'll feel like a kind of era kind of thing for Mission Impossible. Maybe they'll reboot it afterwards with like a brand new Ethan Hunt. Maybe they'll continue it and do like a kind of passing the torch thing. It ultimately depends, but it's going to be sad. Like maybe in like 2 or 3 sequels time, probably won't get any more Mission Impossible films, at least with Tom Cruise as the lead character. But until that point, bring on Mission Impossible 7, bring on Mission Impossible 8. I am ready. Final recommendation, definitely go and see this film. See it on the biggest screen you can with the best sound system you can. Thoroughly entertaining sequel, great action all the way through, great character dynamic. And that's all you want. And as we keep saying, like with 6 movies in now, they've definitely hit their stride. And the momentum of the series is just continuing on. Like, hopefully they don't drop the ball by the 7th one, but how it's course so far, I can just see 7 being either on par with or even better than this one. So I definitely recommend it. Although I didn't enjoy it as much as Rogue Nation, it's one of those films where I'm probably going to have to watch it a bunch of times. And who knows, my favorite Mission Impossible film just is interchangeable and keeps changing all the time. So yeah, definitely check it out. If you like the other ones, even if you're new to the franchise, I think there's still enough where you can still enjoy it as its own thing.
Yeah, they do kind of sum up 5 at the start, but it is worth watching. But it would be a great introductory point for anyone that wants to watch these franchises out at the cinema, watch it at a big screen. There's really not much coming out. England, we have Ant-Man coming out next week. Yes, the rest of the world had it in July. Yes, I've already had it spoiled for me. We have to wait still. For ludicrous reasons by Marvel, who you will see have been getting abused on every status they put recently about Ant-Man 2 by the English. But it's, to me, Ant-Man aside, this is capped off a dreadful summer movie season.
Like, people might think like we've been really inactive on the channel. Like,
there's not much out over here. Like, they're like, oh, where's the Ant-Man review? Well, we haven't got it till next week.
Yeah,
we're not allowed it in England. I'm not going to fly to America till just 6 weeks early. There's not much coming out, and we know it will be one of those where, you know, we probably had our most in-depth Oscar season this year, and we've had a lackluster blockbuster. Whereas last year we had a humongous blockbuster season and a very lackluster Oscar season, and I have a feeling that next year is going to be very, very similar. Already looking into next year's films, that it's this almost bizarre alternate calendars the companies try and do these days.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to think of our next couple of movie reviews. So Ant-Man and the Wasp will probably be our next one. I think after that, there's either a week where there isn't anything out, and then we've got Christopher Robin coming out after that. They're sort of our big 2 now, and Ant-Man will kind of cap off that summer movie season as we move into the... I don't even know if you can call Christopher Robin a summer movie. I think that's more of a fall
It's
movie.
a family. It's
Yeah.
basically Paddington was a hit. Peter Rabbit was a hit. Or let's start the trend. Disney just come out all guns blazing with Winnie the Pooh, and it's like game over. Like Disney's going to absolutely wipe the floor with the rest of, and it looks beautiful as well.
Yeah, I've been completely won over. My first trailer reaction, I was like, "What the hell is this atrocity?" And then by trailer 2, certainly by trailer 3, I'm absolutely on board for it. It looks like really, really nice film. That will be in a few weeks' time, though, once we get into August. So for right now, that'll do it for our review on Mission Impossible Fallout. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of the movie. Did you like it? Where would you rank it in terms of the Mission Impossible films? Anything Mission Impossible related? Please do let us know. Tomorrow, I've been told by Tate that a brand new episode kicking off a new series of Film Club will be back. I still need to watch that movie. I'll be watching that tomorrow morning, so check back tomorrow afternoon for that one. I still have 2 trailer reaction reviews that I still need to get edited. That's for Aquaman and also for Godzilla. Expect those either tomorrow or possibly on Friday, either one of those days. They take a long time to get edited, and as I say, we bring out a lot of other content in between as well. So yeah, if you've just discovered us through this video, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the bell icon as well. We tend to do a lot of live streams, and we don't usually tend to announce when we're going live for those. Hit that bell icon. You'll get a notification at the top of YouTube. It's the best way to stay updated with all of our content. That'll do it for us right now. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.